In 1698, the most powerful man in Russia walked into a noble's banquet and personally cut off his guests' beards with scissors. No warning, no ceremony, just a czar with scissors and a point to make. That man was Peter the Great, and what followed wasn't just a weird party trick. He turned that scissor snip into a government policy, a tax, and a copper medallion you had to wear around your neck to prove you'd paid to keep your own face. Peter had just returned from 18 months touring Western Europe, and that tour wasn't a diplomatic photo op. He traveled part of the way in disguise, working in Dutch shipyards under an assumed name, and came home more convinced than ever that Russia's whole appearance, not just its navy, was part of what was holding it back. Beards were everywhere, and to Peter they symbolized everything medieval about his empire. In 1698, he started shaving his own noblemen by hand. By 1705, he'd turned that impulse into policy, a graduated tax, steeper for the wealthy, lighter for townspeople, and skipped entirely for the clergy and most peasants. Pay, and you got a copper token stamped with the phrase, "The beard is a superfluous burden." You wore it around your neck as proof. Refused to pay, and the law had an answer for that too. Police were authorized to grab you in the street and shave you on the spot, in public. Historians confirm the basic structure of this system, though the exact rates paid by each group are still debated and enforcement clearly varied by region. The token itself changed shape almost every time the tax was renewed. The earliest ones, from 1698 and 1699, were simple copper pennies, so rare today that only a couple have survived. A more common round version came out in 1705, then again in 1710, and by 1724 the government had switched to a diamond-shaped token instead. Every redesign was really an admission that bearded men kept finding new ways around the last one. Here's where it gets strange. Some men paid, some shaved, and period accounts describe others dodging the whole system, putting on a beard for the day and taking it off once they were past the city gate, or slipping an inspector a token they never actually paid for. Because the beard wasn't just facial hair. The Russian Orthodox Church had already declared a clean-shaven face something close to blasphemy, a defacing of the image God gave you. For old believers especially, the ones who'd rejected the Church's recent reforms, this wasn't a tax question. It was a test of faith with a price tag attached. So picture a merchant we'll call Dmitri. He shaves to avoid the fee, pockets the savings, and quietly can't look himself in the mirror for a week. His neighbor pays, keeps the beard, and wears that copper token like a badge of defiance. Same law, same city, two men living in completely opposite realities. Peter hadn't just taxed a fashion choice. He'd accidentally forced an entire country to vote on its own identity, one face at a time. Governments have been taxing strange things forever, not just fashion. Centuries earlier, the Roman Emperor Vespasian taxed the collection of public urine since it was valuable for tanning leather and washing wool, and when his son complained about how undignified that was, Vespasian's answer turned into a saying that's still used today. Money doesn't stink, no matter where it came from. Peter's beard tax ran on the opposite logic. The revenue was never really the point. The behavior change was. This wasn't unique to Russia either, and it didn't end with Peter. His beard tax stuck around for decades, only getting scrapped in 1772. You'll find plenty of articles claiming England tried something similar 2 centuries earlier, under Henry VIII. That one's worth doubting. The National Archives in London says there's no actual record of it, so it looks like a story that got repeated online so many times it started sounding like fact. What is well documented is England's window tax, starting in 1696, which charged houses by how much daylight came through. People responded by bricking up windows rather than paying, which is why you can still spot blocked up windows on old English buildings today. France ran something similar with the salt tax, the gabelle, for over 400 years, right up to the Revolution. And this isn't just old history. In 1991, the US put a luxury tax on yachts, private jets, and other high-end goods, aimed squarely at the wealthy. Within 8 months, Viking Yachts, the country's largest boat builder at the time, had laid off most of its workforce and closed a plant. The boating industry's own trade group put the total job losses in the tens of thousands. Government economists landed on a smaller but still brutal number. Either way, the tax was aimed at rich buyers and mostly hit factory workers instead. Congress repealed it by 1993. The pattern repeats every time. Tax something people treat as a symbol, and you don't get compliance, you get theater, and sometimes an entire industry pays the bill. You do this too, just with different props. Look at your own bills. A resort fee tacked onto a hotel room, a service charge added at checkout, a convenience fee for paying with a card. People get disproportionately angry about these, not because the dollar amount is huge, but because they feel like a trick, a tax on your trust rather than your wallet. When a streaming service raises its price by $2, you don't sit down and run a cost benefit calculation. You feel attacked, like something was taken from you personally, not just from your bank account. When a government or a company charges you for something you consider part of who you are, the anger was never really about the money. It's about identity. Behavioral economists have a name for this: loss aversion meeting identity cost. Losing something that defines you hurts far more than losing the same amount in plain cash, because your brain isn't doing arithmetic anymore, it's defending a self image. Peter the Great stumbled onto that with a pair of scissors in 1698. Governments, companies, and tax collectors have been leaning on it or fumbling it ever since. Here's the thing Peter accidentally proved: the most effective taxes aren't the ones that hurt your wallet the most, they're the ones that make you choose. Pay up or stay who you are. That's not tax policy, that's a personality test with a price tag. Every modern government that's ever buried a fee inside a processing charge or disguised a fine as a compliance cost, Dimitri's copper token and the resort fee on your last hotel bill aren't as far apart as they look. Both are receipts for the right to keep being yourself on someone else's terms. Next time you pay a fee that feels oddly personal, a tax on a specific habit, a surcharge on something you like, ask yourself, is this about revenue or is someone trying to nudge you out of who you are? Drop your answer in the comments. We genuinely want to know what tax has ever felt like an attack on your identity. Subscribe if you want more stories where history turns out to be stranger than any textbook admits, and share this with someone who still thinks tax policy is boring. Disclaimer: this video is for general educational and entertainment purposes only. It is not financial advice.